Believe it or not, everything on earth have an expiring date. The expiring date of racism and white supremacy is almost here. This white man is testifying that he had been in several countries in Africa, and in none of those occasions had he been treated bad by even a single African. I will play the video, but before I play it, I want to say something. Does it mean that black people do not possess the capacity or the capability to practice racism just the way the rest of the world treat them? No. If you go all over Africa, we have millions of Europeans, the Asians, the Middle Easterners littered across the continent of Africa. But you will never see any of them complaining that they are being maltreated by the black Africans. As a matter of fact, our people treat them so well, even far better than they treat their own black brothers. That sends a message to humanity that the only people that have the capacity to love is black people. I know in the meantime most of you will argue saying, but black people hate their black brothers and this and that. The truth of the matter is that that ideology came along with the colonization of Africa. Before the white man came, we have always been our brother's keeper. We have always kept to love. I am of the Igbo extraction, and when my father was alive, he used to tell me how their people practice love. You can easily go to your neighbor and get something when he or she is not around, and it will not be considered criminal. And even if you don't have a house, the whole villagers are going to come together to build you one. That is love. They didn't have the Bible in their hand, neither did they have the Quran to practice those things. It was fundamental, ingrained in their DNA to love one another. But today it is no more. After the coming of the Europeans, if you go right now in my village, if you don't have a house, your brothers who are your neighbors are almost basking in glory that you don't have a house. That mentality was sold to them by the Europeans. And if you see black people practicing some certain things and you feel that they are evil, no, that is a sign of hunger. And as the saying goes, that a hungry man is an angry man. My people are hungry. Most people say black people treat white people anyhow because they go about kidnapping them. I say no, that is not a kidnap. The Europeans, the Asians, the Middle Easterners, they come to Africa conniving with our stupid leaders to steal and cut away the resources that was meant to aid the life of an average black man. So the black man is acting out of hunger. That doesn't mean I'm preaching that our people should engage in kidnapping, but I'm trying to point out what the error is. I dare you to stop poverty in Africa today and show me where a black man anywhere is doing anything evil. The situation that black people have found themselves everywhere in the world should have given us that mentality that if we see a Lebanese, if we see a Chinese, if we see an Indian, if we see an American, or if we see a British man in Nigeria, in Ghana, Cameroon, Burundi, Rwanda, Congo, we should corner the person and lynch him or her instantly. But we don't do that because we are people made of love. It's not that we don't possess the capacity. It's not deeply within us. We are people made of love. The idea of heaven you are thinking is right here in Africa. When my people are able to combat and defeat poverty, you will experience joy, bliss, love that have never been before with mankind. Black people see the rest of the world as their integral part, so they treat them like themselves. They don't need to go to school to study about the evolution of mankind. It is deeply ingrained in them, and they can intuitively zoom into the reality of existence to find out that these Europeans, these Asian people, these the Middle Easterners are part and parcel of them. So they treat them in a loving way. I don't want to talk so much, so I want you to listen to this white man and what he said.
I've lived in 5 different countries in Africa. I've lived in Malawi, Botswana, Zambia, Morocco and Nigeria. I have also travelled extensively in South Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia and Egypt. Never once in all my years of living or travelling on the African continent have I been mistreated in any way because of my ethnicity, because of my skin colour. And this is in spite of the fact that I come from a country who are guilty for some of the worst colonial crimes ever inflicted throughout human history. That's right, I was born in Great Britain. And without doubt, the British and the French committed the greatest atrocities across the continent of Africa. The Belgians have a good claim for the greatest atrocity in their treatment of the Congolese, but if one looks at it as an entity and the number of countries that were invaded by the British and French colonialists, one will see that they are the worst protagonists. Despite this, and despite the behavior of my ancestors, I have never been mistreated. In fact, I have been welcomed warmly in all of the countries I have lived in or visited. And when in Africa, I don't cocoon myself in some enclave dome which is inhabited by people who like to refer to themselves as expats. I hate that term. But no, I integrate as much as possible within local society. I will go to the shebeen. I will go to any compound and experience life as it is for people in the country where I am based. So whether that's in the village, whether it's in the township, whether it's in the local bar, I will integrate, I will mix, and I am always made welcome. Now contrast that with the way many Africans are treated when they choose to live in the United Kingdom or France or other parts of Europe. The difference is incredible. The everyday racism experienced by African people on the European continent is a crime against humanity. Now there are different types of racism. The most obvious is the day-to-day experience that an African will have whilst living in parts of Europe. The name calling, the staring, the subtle discrimination. And for many Africans, they will just brush it off because it is so common that they just get used to it, sadly. Worse, though, is the institutional and structural racism that Africans have to abide with. The restrictions on their movements, the fact that most passports emulating from the African continent will only allow Africans to travel visa-free to a handful of countries. And most of those will be other African countries or countries in the Caribbean. And moreover, the difficulty that Africans have finding work in Europe is unimaginable. People who are qualified as doctors, accountants, lawyers, university lecturers, nurses, teachers do not have their qualifications and experiences recognized by most European countries. I know many people from Africa working in various parts of Europe as security guards or as care assistants when back home they had highly skilled professional jobs. But that experience is rarely recognized when they come to Europe unless they come as part of a transfer with an existing company. But if they come because they've migrated to Europe, their chances of accessing the sort of job which they are eminently capable of is slim. Now, if a black person was making this video, they would be quickly dismissed. They'd be dismissed as having an axe to grind or always trying to find problems. And again, that's part of racism. The fact that I can speak because of my white privilege means that I have a duty to do so. Not because I'm married to an African woman or because I have many African friends, but because I like to think I'm a decent human being who appreciates the value in every person on our planet.
You have heard him, right? I remain Kelechi Ogbonna, aka Captain Africa. Follow for more. See you